Okay, so this was an interesting report by Brian Windhorst yesterday. ESPN's Brian Windhorst. Apparently, Steph Curry to the Los Angeles Lakers, discussions have been had. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, who is this between? During the All-Star break, apparently LeBron began recruiting Steph Curry. Now, when we think about the most polarizing players in the NBA, we typically think about role players, guys that play with a little edge, with a little chippiness to them. They're trash talkers. They get underneath people's skins. They ruffle some feathers. Those are typically who we associate with polarizing players. The Dennis Rodmans, the Matt Barnes, the Draymond Greens of the world, even the Zaza Pachulias to a lesser degree. Very polarizing players. We typically don't see faces of the league fomenting this type of controversy and outrage. We don't typically see that. And one of the reasons why LeBron has been such a polarizing figure is because he will act in very controversial ways. And there are three specific examples. Not only has he become a maverick, but he's kind of shattered the mold. He's bucked the trend when it comes to traditional practices in the NBA. First of all, he's induced a rise in player empowerment. What we've seen is that LeBron has enabled many more of these NBA players to feel empowered, to feel like they can take control over their own situations and over their own NBA careers. Additionally, he's popularized player mobility. So now he's the one that kind of started to popularize this idea that, hey, you can pursue championships elsewhere. It is acceptable to leave your team in free agency. Sure, he took a tremendous amount of backlash for it, and he paid the price, and we've seen how it's manifested and trickled down to Kevin Durant deciding to leave and Paul George deciding to leave the Pacers. We've seen different players leave their teams that drafted them originally. But now it's becoming much more a quotidian act to get up and bounce around from team to team. He's made it more acceptable. And then the third element is that he was the first to really start recruiting NBA stars. He was the first to embrace the notion that, hey, let's join forces and team up to form super teams. Now, I'm not saying he created the super teams. That originated years ago. But he made it a much more popular thing. And now we're starting to see it burgeon across the entire league where players are saying, hey, if we want to pursue championships, sure, let's pack up shop and let's actually join forces. It's acceptable to recruit different players. And so apparently, LeBron made a full, quote unquote, full court press, according to Windhorst, to recruit Steph to the Lakers. And this is why LeBron is so polarizing of a figure, is because not everyone appreciates that. People don't love that he is always vocalizing his opinion, being so outspoken. And again, whether you agree or not with his decision to discuss social and political issues, whether you agree or not with his decision to speak up on the plight of African-American communities, regardless of what you think, the fact of the matter is he's altered the NBA in so many ways, but that's precisely why he's such a polarizing figure. And apparently he feels that there is some doubt that Steph Curry wants to return to Golden State next year. because Steph Curry had the option of signing an extension this year with Golden State, 3 years, $157 million, that he could have signed in December, and he opted to decline that extension. Now, this impending offseason is the big one because he's got one more year remaining on his contract after this season. And so he's eligible to sign a 4-year, $215 million extension. Now, mind you, the extension that he just signed a couple years ago was worth 5 years, $205 million. So yes, you heard that correctly. This new deal would be 4 years, $215 million. More money over the entire span of the deal and a greater sum per year, greater annual salary. And so as a basketball fan, as a Lakers fan, as an NBA fan, I am salivating at the opportunity to sign Steph Curry. Imagine pairing LeBron James with Steph Curry and Anthony Davis. That's preposterous. I mean, you saw a brief snippet of the two of them playing together in the All-Star game, and they had immediate symmetry. Curry dropped 28 points, 8 for 16 on three-pointers. He got wide open three-point shots. It would be absolutely unstoppable, otherworldly if the two of them joined. He's a two-time MVP. He's averaged 24 points per game over his career. This year, averaging 29 points, 41% from the three-point line, but he's shooting 11 attempts a game from the three-point line, and he's still hitting them at a 41% clip. And so, yeah, obviously, if you pair the two of these guys together, they'll be unstoppable. And if the Brooklyn Nets, if they are truly going to be as formidable as we believe they will be, if we truly believe that the current compilation of all-stars that is the Brooklyn Nets will be as dominant as we expect them to be and just run through the entire Eastern Conference and absolutely demolish everyone in their path, including potentially the Lakers, Clippers, or whomever comes out of the Western Conference, if that in fact is the reality, then a move like this may be necessary. Then the three of those guys, but especially LeBron and Steph Curry, joining forces may be necessary to overcome the talent in Brooklyn. Now, as a competitor, I don't want to see this. Because Steph Curry, he personifies the Golden State Warriors. He embodies that franchise. He is the face of the Golden State Warriors. He should be and should remain a Golden State Warrior for the remainder of his career. To be honest, I think Klay Thompson should as well. But it's not inconceivable to see a staple of a franchise get up and move. Tom Brady. Who could have thought that over 3 years ago, if we were having this discussion 3 years ago, that Tom Brady would have been a Tampa Bay Buccaneer? No one could have foreseen that. It wouldn't have happened. So it's not inconceivable that Steph could leave. But again, you go from once adversaries and competitors and foes, arch nemesis. There were legitimate conversations had comparing Steph to LeBron, making the case and the argument that he has surpassed LeBron as the face of the NBA. These conversations were not that long ago. And so for me, to see the roles reversed and them to be teammates, again, from a competitive standpoint, and as a competitor, it's not necessarily what I am absolutely craving for, but I would absolutely welcome that. There's no question about that. And I mean, I'd embrace the move. They'd be extremely potent offensively. They would be the clear-cut favorites. There's no question about that. And if they can make it happen, I'm all for it, especially, again, if the Brooklyn Nets end up just decimating everyone in their entire path, then, okay, let's make the deal happen. Again, I don't expect this to happen. I expect him to remain in Golden State for the remainder of his career, at least through the next 3 to 4 years. But it is interesting. LeBron already planting those seeds, starting to recruit Steph Curry to the Lakers. Wow, that would be just unbelievable if that in fact did take place.